Hey everyone, today we have one insane tip for every single legend. Some tips are obvious ones that you might just be overlooking, and some aren't quite so, but they are still massive game changers. Do me a huge favor, hit that like button, and let's get right to it. This one for Bloodhound is a simple one, but a very, very effective one. If you are wondering when a player's card is going to expire, you can actually tell this with Bloodhound's passive. The icons that Bloodhound sees through their passive stays on the ground for 90 seconds, and oddly enough, this is the same amount of time that a player's card is going to last till it does disappear. While it is frowned upon to camp on someone's death box, it's still a strategy that you can use if you know someone is going to come back at the very last second to grab their teammate's card. The biggest tip that makes an insane world of difference for Vantage's tactical is to utilize crouching. Most probably know this, but crouching is the definitive and really only way to stop your movement once you are throwing yourself at Vantage's bat. Crouching at any moment will better defend yourself for getting into trouble or just allow you to pull up your weapons a little bit faster. And a bonus tip for Vantage is that redirecting with the double jump at the end of the tactical can be done, but you need to be looking away from Echo when you do come in contact with them. Doing this will let you double jump in any direction and better keep yourself alive. Every Gibraltar needs to be using the dome shield to cover doors and just stop enemies' advances. Throwing a tactical dome shield down at the proper distance from a door so it perfectly covers that doorway will make it so players are unable to kick that door down when you as Gibraltar are sitting on the doorway. This can give you enough time for a full reset or even a revive if you do need that as well. For Newcastle, the biggest thing is to combine both his tactical mobile shield and that passive revive capabilities together, but it's not quite in the obvious way where it just adds up to extra protection during a revive. Clearly we know this by now, but the real reason why you want to drop that tactical first is to better protect your teammate once they do actually get up on the ground. It only takes a quick shot to re-knock your friendly, and having that tactical already be there, it's going to better help keep them alive. Super simple, but absolutely not done enough is going to be using Lifeline's tactical healing drone during combat. The drone is great to heal up post-fight, but anytime you can better use it to help you win more, it's going to be the way to go. Popping that healing drone while you pop out of cover will better let you keep enemies from pushing up to you. It's going to keep you healthier overall, and this can be pretty unexpected for your opponents. And if you do take some big damage and you need to take cover, that drone is already going to be there healing you up. You can also use the drone in the open as it does provide a little bit of cover from damage since the drone is pretty much invulnerable. A nice strategy for Mad Maggie to get even more use out of her already great tactical drill is to coordinate a grenade while you are using the drill. If you're unaware, you can use the drill while already having a grenade in your hand. So if you place an arc star or a grenade off to the side and then you release that drill at the same time, you can either get big damage with the grenade or you can force additional movement with that drill. Either way, you're going to do a little bit extra damage, and it is worth practicing this in the firing range. Every Pathfinder needs to learn the super grapple, super fly, whatever you want to call it. Not only is the technique massively useful, it's also a blast to use, and who doesn't want to see how far they can really just sling themselves? This is the best way to escape danger or more or less catch up to any player in the game that is trying to get away from you. Honestly, there's not much out there that can outrun a Pathfinder who does master this ability. The most basic thing you need to know when you are slinging yourself is to always keep your grapple at the maximum distance, and when the grapple is about to connect, pulling back is a must. Pulling your character or stepping backwards will increase your velocity, and then it's going to be all on you to jump and arc yourself as you turn yourself around where the point of contact is. You also have to be very mindful of your landing location, as sliding coming out of your grapple or hitting some edge slides in there are going to greatly help keep your speed up and that travel distance up. We do have one very basic tip for Ash's Phage Breach that can mean the difference between life and death. Portaling out of bad situations is going to happen more times than not. It's actually my preferred way to use Ash's portal, is more of an escape ability. Right as you do exit the portal with an enemy chasing you, take a step backwards, and this is going to let the enemy that does chase you through that portal be right in front of you, and you are going to be able to shoot their back. It's a small tip that can make a huge difference. A tip for Apex Legends Resident Sweatlord revolves around her tactical and ultimate portal combo. When using a Wraith's portal and traveling across open areas, pop Wraith's tactical ability right at 60% of your portal energy remaining when you are in a full sprint. This will drop the portal at the exact same time as you do exit her phase, and this means you'll have the maximum efficiency and protection of her tactical without cutting it short. What separates your average Seer from an excellent one is going to be their combat fighting capabilities, and there's really one simple but insane thing you do need to have down with Seer's ultimate if you really want to take it to the next level. This is of course timing. This thing comes back crazy fast for an ultimate ability of its caliber, which means every time you do enter a fight and you have this thing ready to go, you really should be using it unless you are getting close to an end game where you might want to save it. Waiting to use the ultimate later on in a fight is a fine option, but sometimes you won't be able to place it in the best spot so placement as well as timing really matters. Don't be that person that just throws the ultimate in the middle of a room or in the open and it gets shot dead a second later. A simple tip, but the rockets from Bangalore's ultimate go forward from where the flare lands. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen enemies or my teammates throw the flare right on or beyond an enemy team and it completely misses them. Kind of can't believe I need to state this nearly 4 years into the game, but there it is. Hop into my community Discord if you do not want to play with those random players, and of course, drop a comment down below if you have any questions about anything we are discussing. I'd love to help you out. An insane combat fighting tip for Valkyrie is to fly directly over the heads of enemies in a close range fight. When you travel over the head of those enemies, even if you're not Valkyrie, tracking becomes increasingly difficult to do, and if enemies do have a slow sense, they simply can just not keep up with you, and you're going to be able to shoot them in the back. There is some risk when it does come to doing this, as you are going to put your weapons away while boosting, so timing is going to be critical, and try your best not to perform this maneuver unless an enemy is reloading or slow to react to you as you start the engagement. Our tip for Caustic revolves a little bit around being a little bit more offensive and being combatively strategic when it does come to fighting your enemies. One trick that I think should be used a little bit more often though is to use traps as a way to force enemies to pull their attention away from yourself, opening a fight by throwing a trap down to the side of an enemy and then directly start to shoot them while that trap inflates is a very good thing to do, and you are going to be able to get some shots on them. The big thing with this is it's going to either force them to choose shooting you or letting that trap get fully set up, which for some can be difficult to manage. The best way for this to work with success is to better separate you and the trap so you're not lining up. If you do this, enemies can just shoot the trap that's inflating and you at the same time, and it's not going to work quite as well. You do get 3 charges, so at the end of it all, just don't be lazy and always put those traps down as you are approaching fights. Our next tip is in regards to Fuse and to better help you use his tactical knuckle clusters. This tip really applies if you are sitting on 1 charge and you don't have 2 charges ready to use. If you do have 2, you should always try to save at least 1 for when it really counts. Basically, you don't necessarily want to start off a fight by using Fuse's clusters, as really they don't do that much damage, and depending on the location or the distance from that enemy, getting them to move might not really be that useful. As always though, it is situational. The better way to use his clusters is after you have already started an engagement. If you know an enemy is behind cover after getting cracked or taking some big damage, this is the moment when you need to be using his knuckle cluster. This could force enemies into a panic, leaving their cover when they actually are already very vulnerable, or it could even lead to you getting some knocks. Much like a lot of things in Apex, having a little patience can go a long way. Whether you think Mirage is insane or just straight up trash can differ, but one thing that many people can agree on is that the ultimate does have some serious power. The biggest tip really when it does come to Mirage's ultimate is to try and not use the ability in the open, but sometimes you have no choice. The problem with using Life in the Party in the open is that it makes it pretty easy for enemies to track you. If you have really good timing though, you can use this ability in the open by doing something like the following. You're running forward, you pop that ability, and right as the clones are about to pop and before your invisibility wears off, you need to turn and change your movement to confuse enemies so they do think that you're just a clone leaving the center of the pack. It's very critical, and hear me out on this one, that enemies are not actively shooting you when you are doing this. If they are shooting you, they can more likely just track those damage numbers, and it's not going to work as effectively. The weakest part of Horizon's kit is definitely going to be that ultimate black hole, which does mean we do have a tip to better use it. To use it with more effectiveness, you need to place that black hole outside of an enemy's line of sight to the point where someone cannot get access to it. Doing this is a great way to breach buildings, as you will continually suck up those enemies, and this could be by placing it on a roof, outside of a room, or on the other side of really any object that an enemy can get to. Since the black hole will continually and non-stop pull them in, you can pair this up with grenades by throwing the grenades where they need to run, and there's really almost no counter to this. This is not going to be the typical throw the black hole then throw that grenade down combo, so a little bit more planning of that engagement area is going to be necessary. Keeping it simple, with our favorite assassin, you need to be using the silence orb to open every single fight. Revenant may not be the greatest legend, but this is literally the ability that will cancel all the movement abilities of most of the high tier or highly picked legends. Not to mention, and one thing that many don't realize, it also does shrink their field of view with the black outline that does cover their screen. Be smart with your timing of this ability and always try to smack them in the face with your giant red glowing balls. Rampart has come a long way so far that I can pretty confidently say that a good Rampart should or can be playing with their kit a little bit more aggressive than they have in the past. Using the walls in a fight as cover is pretty obvious, but you can actually use the walls while they are placing, and they are still going to be pretty effective. When you drop a wall in the middle of a fight or when you are about to get attacked, you want to swing out to the side of that wall, creating separation from you and that wall that is activating up. This will better help that wall get activated, and right as the wall does get activated, you can walk back over to the wall and start using that amped portion to dish some damage out, or of course, just have some more cover. Rampart's playmaking options are much better than they used to be, and she is definitely a legend that is a little bit more hybrid between the aggressive and defensive legends right now. It's kind of all been said for our Season 2 stack Defender Wattson, but there are still a couple small things that can make a world of difference when you are using her. The main thing is to always be setting up an ultimate pylon prior to your entrance to a fight, and to do this as often as possible. Doing this will better let you handle incoming damage and deal more damage with less downtime, as you are going to get shielded up as you do take some damage. The big thing to note with this is to try and place a pylon in locations that you are not going to just abandon 2 seconds later, and if you do play this way, it's paramount that you carry at least a couple ultimate accelerants so you can set up another pylon right away if you do end up getting thirded. Our Loba tip is actually a very good one more players need to be aware of, and this is that you can ping items in the market and then figure out exactly where they are on the ground. You can do this by pinging the item in the black market, backing out of the market, and looking at that item that is highlighted on the market. Then you hold your ping on that item and you will see a line go from the center of your screen to exactly the direction and location where the item is. This is super simple, and honestly it can save a ton of time, so take full advantage of this. If you didn't know, Crypto can still continue his movement even when he is not in the drone. This is actually a big deal because you can stay mobile during rotations or even fighting by sliding down hills or small ledges while you go into the drone, and as long as you are currently sliding, your movement will continue on as you do take a quick look at what is around, see those banners, or of course move the drone into position. Timing with Octane's pad is going to be key. Everyone knows this. If you hit Octane's pad at 2 seconds left of any healing item, you can still get a very clean double jump in. As always, crouching onto the pad will give you the same explosive low launch with the same speed and distance as if you were just sprinting and sliding into it. The only thing that the pad does care about is if you are crouched or standing. Check out my movement guide right here to master your abilities and out finesse your opponents, and you know what? Drop a smiley emoji in the comments if you did make it this far. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.